Medicare has changed in a massive way in 2026, and those changes that we've seen so far are certainly not over yet, as we're going to continue to see even more changes and transitions within privatized Medicare plan providers, and this is ultimately going to impact the beneficiaries in a pretty massive way as well, with plan optionality, plan flexibility, plan coverages, and even plan costs, as well as we're seeing a major shakeup in the privatized Medicare space, with those providers that are out there changing positions and, again, limiting options for beneficiaries. We're going to see a whole lot more coming, and I want to break it down for you in this video based on some recent announcements out of CMS, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, as well as some of these privatized Medicare providers, what they're doing right now, the leadership in this, and what we're likely going to see going forward. Now, I also do have this article right here. I'm going to pop this up in just a second so you can see and read for yourself exactly what this is talking about. This is actually very, very interesting, and we're likely going to see this continue to shake up in a pretty massive way. All right, so anyway, let's just pop this up right here, right now. Feel free to read through the details on this. You may read through this and think, like, what does this actually mean? Let's just talk through it. Okay, so remember back in the end of January, CMS announced that they were going to be offering compensation for the upcoming year for these privatized Medicare plan providers of just 0.09% increase to their compensation. Well, guess what? They really don't like that. This is ultimately going to limit plan availability and optionality for beneficiaries because a lot of these huge providers are going to start cutting back on plans simply because they're no longer profitable. If they're not going to be compensated from CMS at the rates that they need to be profitable, they're going to start cutting tons of plans. Now, this is not going to happen immediately, but rather over the coming year here, this is when we're going to start to see these major changes. Now, not only that, as you can see in this article here, Humana is likely going to be the largest Medicare privatized Medicare Advantage plan provider going forward. What's super interesting about this is that they added over 1 million new people in the last sign-up period. That's incredible, right? Over 1 million people. And they're projecting by the end of 2026, so going into 2027, they may be sitting with roughly 7.3 million people within their Medicare Advantage plans. Now, they ended 2025 with 5.8 million people, according to this article here. And they may be over 7 million people by the end of 2026. At the same time, what's super interesting about that is that United Healthcare, who is currently the largest Medicare Advantage plan provider, is actually likely going to see a drop in people by about 1.1 million, bringing them down to about the 7.2 to 7.3 million enrollees within their respective Medicare Advantage plans. Now, what's super interesting about that is that why would these two be doing this, right? Like, why is one gaining 1 million people, the other plan or the other provider losing about 1.1 million people, and like, why is this all happening, right? Well, that's a really good question. It probably comes down to the optionality that they have within their plans, as in plans that they're providing, right? And I think a lot of us saw this at the end of 2025. You saw the videos that I had here on the channel. And again, I saw tons and tons of comments. People reaching out saying, I was on this plan, plan's no longer available, or I can't see my doctor on that plan, or the plan was discontinued, all kinds of things like this, and therefore these beneficiaries are being impacted, again, in a pretty massive way. Now, based on those compensations that we saw out of CMS that were announced at the end of January, I would anticipate their availability and optionality of plans going forward for the next year here is just going to become even more limited. That's my anticipation, because remember, these healthcare providers that have these privatized Medicare plans that are, Medicare approved plans, right? Here's the deal. They're not nonprofits. They're not nonprofits at all. So therefore, if they have a non-profitable plan that's provided in some region, do you think they're going to keep it for the following year? Not a chance. They're going to get rid of that thing, right? They are in this for profit. They're in it to make money. They're not in this to have a charity. I mean, that's a whole other thing in and of itself, right? So anyway, that is the major situation that we're having here. Now, what also I see coming forward with this is that because these compensations and the reimbursement rates that were announced by CMS back in the end of January, basically since those are not budging going into the coming year here, 2027, because those are not really going to be budging going forward, I would anticipate the elimination of a lot more plans going forward, and again, the availability of plan options for different beneficiaries across the country to be even more limited, simply because these are just the two largest providers that we're talking about, Humana and United Healthcare. There's a ton of other options out there. There's a ton of other Medicare Advantage plan providers that are likely going to be pulling back on plans because of that compensation and the reimbursements that we've talked about. Because of that, we may see this just be like a battle of the fittest, right? Or the survival of the fittest, where just the biggest providers, the United Healthcares, the Humanas of the world, and maybe a couple others, may be the only ones out there that are really providing any sense of plan optionality across the country for these millions of beneficiaries that rely on these coverages, simply because, again, like I said a couple minutes ago, if they're not profitable, these plans will be forced to eliminate their coverages, and these different regions, counties, states, just basically all of these different coverage areas that they currently have now, they're going to be forced to eliminate a lot of these across the country. Does this make sense? Now, here's what's also interesting. Back in, I think it was January, so just, not that long ago, I had a video out where I was talking about these two, Humana and United Healthcare. Just between these two providers, they have eliminated 400 plus counties in the United States as far as what are offering coverages. 400 plus counties that have lost coverage just so far this year, okay? That's just between these two. Why did they do that? And again, remember, that's just 400 plus counties across the country. There's thousands and thousands of counties across the country, but just these two eliminated access and coverage in 400 counties because they're no longer profitable. When they're no longer profitable, they get rid of those plans, they eliminate those plans, and they force these individuals that were on the plans, which happens to be millions of people between these two, they force these individuals to find new plans and possibly go to a different provider because they're not offering coverage there anymore because it's no longer profitable. Do you see the point here? Do you see the trend, right? So what this really means here going forward is that I wouldn't be shocked. By the way, I want to throw this out there really quickly. This is not happening overnight. This is not happening right here, right now. But as we transition into 2027, which again is a long time from right now, but as we get into the end of the year, which again is still a very long time from right now, when we get into annual enrollment at the end of the year, I think we're going to be shocked when we see the different plan options that are out there and the coverage areas and how many plans they actually offer for these individuals enrolled in Medicare Advantage plans. I think we're going to be surprised to see, oh wow, they've eliminated hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of more plans, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of more counties across the country, and we're going to see these plans really getting squeezed, which is ultimately coming down to the beneficiary at the end of the day, because it's the beneficiary who's the one that is going to be seeing the impacts of this, because they may not have the plan coverages, and they'll likely be forced into a different plan, possibly even a totally different provider, or who knows what's going to happen, right? We may see total areas across the country that may not have any plan options that suit the beneficiaries in that respective area. And we saw this a lot last year at the end of 2025 during that annual enrollment period, when I see tons of comments that reached out and people were basically saying, hey, my plan is no longer available, whatever the situation was. It was kind of a nasty situation. I anticipate what we saw last year, 2025, for this year, 2026, is just going to be all of that plus a whole lot more in the end of this year, 2026, going into 2027, when everybody's shopping for their plans again. Does that kind of make sense, right? It's going to be nasty, but it all comes down to reimbursements and those compensations. And again, that's what this is all coming down to. If they were all being compensated and reimbursed properly, they'd have tons of plan options. They wouldn't be eliminating counties. They'd be adding counties because they want to get more people signed up, because that gets more money for them at the end of the day in those reimbursements. Does that kind of make sense, right? So point being is that they make money when they add counties. When they're eliminating counties and eliminating plans, that simply means, well, the plans are no longer favorable to them. Does that make sense? Anyway, just want to bring this to your attention. This is a wild time right now with all these different changes and everything that's coming out right now. I'll keep you posted any way that I possibly can be. Otherwise, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. 100% free. Big subscribe button down below. Please share the video. Big share button down below as well. Otherwise, drop your comments, your questions, your feedback down below. Let me know what else I can do for you. There's a lot of things that are going on right now. Please enjoy your day. Take care. I know it's a very wild time, very, very confusing. A lot of big things that are happening. Otherwise, stay tuned. I'll certainly be here right by your side every single day, bringing the latest updates as this information is coming out. Until next time, have a nice day. Take care, and I'll see you.